Mandala is derived from the Sanskrit word for circle. The sages say that this is the artistic embodiment of a higher thought. Well, today I will not teach you how to encode thoughts into images, although, in fact, any language is the coding of thoughts into images. But today we will build a beautiful, dynamic, interactive fractal. When contemplated, it can cause a hypnotic effect. Be careful, control the time of observation. Let's start. We need two files, HTML and JavaScript. Standard HTML template. In style settings, full screen, hidden scroll bars, black background and zero padding. The canvas element and this link to the script file. Our object. Properties for working with canvas. Here we will store the screen dimensions. We will need them in the calculations. Let's create a mouse object to store a current mouse position. It will be required for interactive mode. It will also be automatic, but more on that later. And one more object for calculating the position of the current circle. Let's call these circles the nodes of this fractal. Next, we have two auxiliary coefficients for calculations and changing the appearance of the entire figure. The next property, if we draw a parallel with the example from the previous lesson, a fractal tree, it shows the number of trunks, or in other words, axioms. For this fractal, it will be more correct to say that this is the number of original branches. Let's use this term by analogy with the previous fractal tree. Here is an example with one branch. There are three circles here, just two are combined. And this is how it looks after the shift. Here two branches, 3, 4, and so on. The spin property, you guessed it, will be responsible for the multiple rotations of the circles. We will analyze it in detail later. Now, the property responsible for the depth of the recursive calls. Let's take one trunk as an example. The increase in depth looks like this. Be careful with increasing the depth of recursion. This greatly increases the complexity, and hence the load on the processor. We will use the HSLA color model, and the following property hue is a degree on the color wheel from 0 to 360. The fractal will have a complex multi-level structure. So, there will be one more auxiliary property, with which we will change the colors of the circles. Let's take the blue color as the initial value. And the last property is a timer that will help you create animation automatically by calling the fractal construction function at regular intervals. Initialization method. Let's use a shorthand syntax to set the dimensions of the canvas and set the helper properties to the appropriate values. Now, let's move on to the main method for constructing a fractal, which contains recursive calls.